Hello, this is Michael again with Pop Culture Masculinity, the show where we deconstruct other philosophies out there online and try to offer a different view of masculinity for guys looking for a little guidance, for lack of a better word. In this episode, we'll be establishing some of the communities out there, how they came to be, and some of the vocabulary that they use, because we'll be referring to these in a series of future videos, so it's important for our audience to understand what we're talking about. First off, you have PUA, or the pickup artist community. Now, I have some personal experience in this particular community. There's currently some disagreements about the pluses and minuses of this particular philosophy amongst me and my partner, so in a future episode, you may see us debate that. In the meantime, here's some background on PUA. It began in the early 2000s in small niche circles, but became really popular when a Rolling Stone reporter named Neil Strauss came out with a book called The Game, a primer on how to approach women intended for socially awkward males, and a detail of how he was able to infiltrate the industry, filled with information from gurus such as Mystery, Ross Jeffries, and others. PUA uses psychology and analytical ways to overcome the perceived shortcomings of these particular males who don't possess the natural gift of gab or ability for social interaction. Eventually, the PUA became an industry and filled to the brim with business and products being sold, and also filled to the brim with misogynists. Even Neil Strauss himself said in a 2000 interview that, quote, "There are some really damaged people with hateful and distorted view of reality gathering other people who share those views," unquote. Attracting people with neurotic wounds and character disorders trying to find help and change themselves. At any rate, here's some of their terminology. Nagging. Basically, nagging is a compliment meant to put a woman on her toes and get you to like her better. "Oh, you'd look better if you wore more makeup." Or, "That dress looks nice, but a different color would complement your eyes better." Shit test. When a woman subconsciously or otherwise puts up a defense that she wants a man to try to overcome. A good example of this is LTR, or last minute resistance, where a woman will essentially have second thoughts about having sex, but a man is expected to either follow through past those signs or use push and pull technique to get past it. We'll be discussing that later. High value versus low value males. It's a way to determine the difference between a rich, fit, and or charismatic male versus one who doesn't fit any of those characteristics. Approach anxiety. That's the feeling of nervousness when first approaching a woman or a group of women. It's typical for any male. It's meant to be overcome, usually by using the 3-second rule. That means to approach within 3 seconds of seeing a woman or a group of females, which helps to avoid appearing creepy by staring for 20 minutes before building up the courage to approach. Women, I know you've seen this before. Cocky funny. This is the act of being somewhat arrogant, but in a funny way. It's quite a fine line to balance, because if you're too cocky, obviously that's a turnoff for most women, and if you're too funny, then you get perceived as a clown and you veer yourself straight into the friend zone. A good example of this would be, "So you gonna buy me a drink?" "Oh yes, thanks. I'll have a scotch and coke. Cheers." "No, I said you buy me a drink." "Oh no, that wouldn't be polite. I've always been taught that ladies go first." Okay. Maybe some of you thought that was funny or cute, or maybe some of you thought it was stupid, but hey, it was a height of originality in the mid-2000s. Bitch shield. This is where some of the misogyny starts to come in. But a bitch shield is where a woman has her walls put up simply because she gets hit on a lot by different guys. And the PUA philosophy, it is your goal to try to overcome this particular impediment and make her laugh or get her uncomfortable enough to, converse with you more, sleep with you. DMV, or demonstration of higher value. Well, this one should be obvious. Some ostentatious thing to show off that you are higher value than the other males that approach her or are in that particular venue. I should probably mention that most of this stuff is used in nightclubs and or bars. Probably should be obvious by now. IOI or IOD. That's an indicator of interest or of disinterest. It's also somewhat self-explanatory, but it's usually a body language type clue that she's either into you or not into you. Last two terms, ONS, one night stand, and LTR, long-term relationship. again, pretty self-explanatory. So that kind of covers it as far as PUA goes. Now on to the red pill. The red pill is an offshoot of the PUA and way more misogynistic. The name of the red pill is chosen from the part in the Matrix where Neo is offered by Morpheus to take a blue pill or a red pill. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and you believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. How's my impression? Pretty good? In any case, the rabbit hole in question is showing you how the world is run by women and how terrible they are. The aggravating part of TRP is that the advice given by the community, most of it's pretty good. So it kind of lures you in. Say a socially awkward male gets rejected by a woman, and he feels down on himself because of it. He stumbles onto the 4chan or Reddit forums where the red pillars are. The gurus there will inundate him with words of wisdom like, you should find out yourself. Get to know yourself better without women. Work out more. Find something of interest to study so you'll have something to talk about, etc., etc. So far, so good, right? Everybody can agree that's actually objectively good advice. Except one piece of advice gets thrown into it. You have to hate all women. Now, of course, it's not stated as such. One of their core beliefs, though, is AWALT, which stands for All Women Are Like That. A brush that paints all females with the same behavioral characteristics. Some chick rejected you and went out with an asshole instead? Well, that's typical because all women are like that. Newsflash, not all women are like that. Some of their other terminology, an alpha. That's based on the current behaviors of wolves in the wild, where an alpha leads the pack. This is a male who is very high value and typically demeans women, but by their own definition. Beta, also based on the same idea, a beta kowtows to what women want and ends up in the friend zone a lot more often. Omega, those are totally worthless guys who put pussy on a pedestal and act like a puppy dog who doesn't get enough attention. They are typically beyond help, according to the red pillars. Gynocentrism. Ooh, that's a big one. A dominant or exclusive focus on women, either in theory or in practice, or the advocacy of this. Hypergamy, or hypergamy, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. I've only read it. It's the action of marrying a person of superior caste or class. Monkey branching. The act of flirting when you're already in a relationship. Black pill, a catastrophic prophecy or spiritless prophesying for the future. It is not necessarily grounded in reality. That's a red pill gone hopelessly bleak. N count, the number of sexual partners. And dread game, a technique to use in relationships where you make a girl worry that something is wrong or that you may leave her for another woman. Kind of reverse hypergamy. Oh man, that's awful. Anyway, that about does it for the red pillars. There's also MGTOW, which stands for Men Going Their Own Way, which we'll delve into in a future episode. So guys, stay tuned for next week when we dissect a famous piece of pop culture to find out the good and bad examples of masculinity and male-female dynamics. If you listen closely to this episode, I bet you can guess which film it is. Stay tuned.